Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to this video. We are now approaching, or we are now in autumn. But as I thought, as we are now approaching that sort of time of the year and approaching October, the nights draw in and it starts to get a bit cold and windy and wet outside. So no better time than to sort of like snuggle in at home to a nice horror movie, something that's going to sort of like make you feel cozy, a bit creeped out, and making you feel a bit of fun. So I thought I'd pick out 10 movies, and these are 10 movies that I recommend for you to watch this autumn time, so through to sort of like October, through to sort of like Halloween. Now, I've not done there's no Halloween films in here. I will do a Halloween recommendations nearer the time. This is going to be an autumn one, so films that will give you the chills, if you like, but will help you to sort of snuggle down into your autumn period. I've tried to get a wide variety of sort of films in here, but I wanted some of them to have a bit of an autumny sort of feel to it. So that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like a sort of creepy sort of feel, because when autumn, when everything starts dying outside and the leaves start falling, it just seems a little bit more eerie and creepy, doesn't it? And that's why I love autumn. So I'll try to pick films that covered that. So the first one we're going to look at is called The Amazing Mr. Blunden. Now, this is a old British film, and it's a ghost story. And it's based in this sort of house, this old house that this family have gone to move at. So mother and two children have gone to move and live at this house and be like a caretaker for it, because it's fallen into sort of disarray and not being used. And the children there encounter this old man called Mr. Blunden, but he's actually a ghost. And he also encounters two other children that used to live in this house years ago before a great fire. And they're sort of telling them two children to help them and the story of this fire that happened, and to sort of help save the children from the fire. It's kind of a children's ghost story. It is a certification U, so it's suitable for, I'd say, all family members. But this was one of my early introductions to the horror films, and I loved it. I thought it's such a sort of warm but eerie and spooky story. There's no sort of it's not scary as such, although you might think that the housekeeper and her husband are quite scary. But it's just that sort of menacing sort of story underfeel. But it's the housekeeper that's trying to burn down this house, and these two are trying to save the other two, and so they are sort of took through into the back time, into when this happened in the Victorian times, to help out. It's a really cool sort of concept of a film, and it's a classic. It's a classic British ghost story, and so that's in number 10. It's gives you that sort of warm feeling that you're looking for, and it's one that you can watch at any time with anyone. Really, it's harmless in a sense, but it's still got that nice grip that a horror film would give you. Next up is, and this time it's another haunting. It's another sort of haunting ghost story, and this time it's called The Changeling. I think this one is it's based on the guy who's just lost his wife, I think, and he's encountering these sort of ghosts and hauntings in this sort of house. It's been a long time since I've watched it. I did review this on my channel over a year ago. This is the second sight release that came out, and I believe it's George C. Scott's the main star, and he's sort of like encountering things in this house, and it's a really cool eerie haunting, not a jump scare, sort of haunting house or anything, but it's very eerie, and it does have that sort of autumny sort of feel to the film, and that's why I put it in here, because it sort of like has that sort of feeling about it. I remember this coming out, and I'd seen it when it came out, and I found it quite slow. It is a slow burn film, but over the years I've got, when I've seen it, I've enjoyed it more and more. And I watched it about 6-7 months ago, and I really enjoyed it. And my lad picked it up and he loved it. I think he scored it quite high to me when he tells me his scores for his films, bless his heart. And he really enjoyed it, and I did too. And we're going to stick with the hauntings and ghost stories. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. I'm trying to get these ghosty ones out of the way. But we got Nicole Kidman in The Others. Again, this is another strange sort of little story, quite similar to The Sixth Sense and The Orphanage, if you've ever seen them. It's about this sort of haunted house, and this woman, I think her and her kids are ghosts, but she still believes they're alive and stuff like this, because she sees the house deteriorating and things happening outside, and she won't go outside because of, she thinks there's horrible things out there, so she keeps her children locked up in the house and away. But I think it's sort of, the premise is that they're already actually dead, but she doesn't come to terms and realise that. So it's quite a different sort of story, but it's really, really spooky and quite scary. There is a few jump scares in the film. I loved it. I saw this in the cinema on release, and it's not long got a new release. This is the new 4K release from Studio Canal, and they've just not long got released, so it's really good to pick this up, and I really enjoyed it. I think the lad enjoyed it too, not as much as myself, but I think he really enjoyed it. It's a good film. And Nicole Kidman, it's great to see her again in a horror film. She's been in a few horror films. I think she was in Dead Calm, wasn't she? Which is another really good film. But yeah, really cool film. Definitely got that sort of autumny, cozy night in sort of feel to it, to sort of snuggle up with and watch if you want a nice sort of ghost story. We're going to depart from the ghost stories a little. No, we're not. This is another ghost story. This is called Barren Blood, but this time we're off to Italy, and this is a fantastic Italian film. This one is about this castle that's sort of like, it's gone into disrepair, and there's supposed to be a ghost there of the Baron, and he was quite brutal back in his time, and he killed lots of people, and his family member has come back to the castle, and he's now been resurrected, and he's haunting the halls of the castle again, and he's leaving a bloody trail of bodies behind him. Brilliant Italian horror. Got a bit of a gothic feel about it. That's why I put it in here, because it's got a bit of the gothic tale, because it's in the castle, and it's sort of digging back to sort of gothic-y times, and it's quite there's some quite cool deaths in it. It's quite spooky. It's a little bit out there. It's got scenes of torture in there and all sorts of things. It's a great cast. It's got a really gothic-y sort of imagery in the film, and it is a really, really cool sort of film. If you've never seen Barren Blood, it's one of those films that I think has gone just out of mind. And it's such a shame, because I bought this, guys, from CEX. It was £6, I believe. Guys, it's got a booklet. It's got 3 discs. You know what I'm saying? It's got a DVD, and it's got a Blu-ray, and it's got another DVD with extra features in there. And it is loaded with extra features. And I got it for £6. And I watched it on a whim, and I absolutely fell in love with Barren Blood. In fact, that is going to be one of my October watches. Might even be my Halloween watch, because I've not watched it for what, about 2 years now. I think it's in one of my pickup videos. I think I picked it up when I went down to Stevenage to see the lad about 2 years ago. So I thought, well, do you know what? when I was looking through films, I was going through my films thinking, well, what can I recommend to people? Oh, Hammer films. And I thought, no, that would be predictable. An Englishman recommending Hammer films, you know, and I love Hammer films, as you know, but I love my other sort of genres and Italian films probably a bit more than I love my Hammer films. But that's absolutely fantastic. But next up, we're going to a comedy horror. So if you want to have a cozy night in, this is one to watch on a wet, windy night. Okay, and it's windy out there. The rain's going. You can hear the rain on your window pane. It's stormy out there. No better way to enjoy your evening, but with Gene Wilder and Young Frankenstein. This is a fantastic movie. I believe it is written and directed by Gene Wilder himself. And it's a black and white. Is it filmed in black and white? I'm sure it is. Yeah, I'm sure it's filmed in black and white to make it look like an old sort of Boris Karloff film. And Gene Wilder plays young Dr. Frankenstein. Not Frankenstein, Frankenstein. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's got Marty Wildman in it. Absolutely brilliant, from the Monty Python team, who plays his sidekick. And it's a fantastic take on the Frankenstein sort of world in a very comical sort of way. This is a fantastic autumn sit-in film. Especially if you're not a massive horror film fan, but you like that sort of the macabre and the sort of the thought of liking horror, but you just can't bring yourself to it. So pop on a horror comedy, and it don't get better than Young Frankenstein. Absolutely amazing film. Really recommend it for anyone, really, at any time of the year, but especially this autumn. Dig it out and watch it. Now, I don't know if it's on any streaming services online. I don't know. But I'm sure you can pick this up quite cheap on Blu-ray or DVD online or in your HMV stores. Really cool. So we're halfway through. So far I've recommended to you The Amazing Mr. Blunden, classic British ghost story. Changeling, a haunting story. The Others, another sort of different sort of haunting story. Baron Blood, an Italian gothic castle ghost story. And of course, Young Frankenstein. So that's 5 so far. So we're halfway there. But like I said, it's autumn, and in the middle of autumn is Halloween time. So I thought I'll put one title in there to recommend to you that is a sort of Halloween sort of story. But I'm not going to delve right into Halloween sort of recommendations till October. But I thought I'll put one in here for you in the meantime, and it's Hellfest, which is this American film based on this sort of theme park that's come to town. It's in the sort of October Halloween time, and there's our killer that is stalking excuse me that's him there. He's a masked killer, and he's stalking and preying on teenagers and at this theme park, and it's a slasher film, but based in the sort of Halloween sort of time. So it's good fun. It's a fun movie. Ever so sorry, guys. Let's have a drink. It wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't mess up. I'm wondering if I've got tea leaves loose in this cup of tea. I think that's what it is. Yes, it's just a fun slasher movie based in a theme park in America. Not a lot else I can go with it with that, apart from it's just good fun. So if you want something fun and gory, that's probably your picture out of this lot. But if you want something that's a bit more seedy, sadistic, and gothic, and old school, you've got nothing more than the horrible Dr. Hitchcock. This is released by Radiance Video. and it's a film based on this doctor. I believe this is either Spanish or Italian. Yep, it's Italian. It's based on this doctor, Dr. Hitchcock, who's got a rather nasty sort of fetish of necrophilia, and he sort of drugs his wife to make her unconscious before he sort of make loves to her and all this sort of thing. And then one day he gives her too much and she dies, but he still goes ahead, of course. And then he finds a new victim to take her place. And it's a very sort of gothic, old school sort of film. It is an old film. This was made in what year was this? It's definitely like a 70s film. It mightn't be even earlier than that. But it's a very early piece of sort of like Italian horror. Extremely gothic. It's got thunderstorms galore outside the big house. It's got lots of sort of gothic imagery. So what else is perfect for an autumn night? Similar to like a Hammer film, but a bit more of a sort of a sadistic sort of feel to the film. When I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean it's graphic. It's not highly graphic. You don't see anything of this. It's all imagery is entails to it. Obviously, they didn't show that sort of thing back then, but it does entail, and you know what's going on. So it's got that sort of really sort of seedy view to it, because when you don't see it, your mind sees different things, doesn't it? And sees it worse than it probably would be if it was shown. But yeah, it's a very sort of like dark, gothic-y tale, and nothing more wonderful for an autumn. Right, another sort of a sort of dark sort of tale is the film called The Righteous, which is I believe an American film. Came out in 2000 and something, I believe. And this is about a priest who's no longer a priest. He's given up his faith and he's living with his wife. And one night they got visited by a stranger who's injured himself, and they sort of invite him to stay into the house. And it turns out this stranger is something that's sent to him. It's supposed to be like on the sort of Satan side, to sort of to make him do something good, or something like that, or they're going to sort of he's going to succumb to a bad end. It's a strange, obscure little story, but wow, is it well acted out, and is it well spooky. It's shot in black and white. It's quite eerie and scary, and the guy that plays the stranger is absolutely fantastic. And when I saw this film, I just thought, wow, this is like nothing I've ever seen before. It's almost like a really old sort of Italian film. It's a very sort of occult sort of film, like if you're watching the film about an occult, you know, not a cult group, but occult. It's got that sort of like hidden sort of demonic sort of messages in it, and it's a really, really, really eerie film. Highly recommend it. Again, it's only a 15, so it's not too bad. So it's watchable for everyone. If you don't get spooked out by things that are like a bit more sort of occultish and demonic. Really cool film. Great story, well acted, and really is worth your time at any time of the year. But as it's black and white and it's got quite a grim storyline, watch it in the autumn, along with this British classic survival horror called The Ritual. Now, this film is fantastic. Now, this is based in, it's a British film, and I believe it's based, is it in Sweden? Yeah, they go to Sweden on a hiking trip. One of their friends gets killed at a robbery at a supermarket. It intervenes and gets killed. So the rest of them still go on this hike to Sweden in his memory, and they get lost in the woodlands. And there's something of a witchcraft sort of creature, and sort of a group of people living within the woods, and they all sort of succumb to this horror that is in this woodlands. And there's this strange looking creature which we see quite near the end of the film, which is absolutely awesome, but it is so scary and so eerie. So again, I've put it in there because it's based in the woodlands. It's got a very autumny look to the film, and it is top scary sort of film. Absolutely wonderful film, and like it says at the top, by far the best British horror film in years, and I agree. This was in my top 10 favourite British horror films of all time. It is fantastic. If you've never seen The Ritual, you've not seen. You're not a fan of horror. You know, you've got to see this film. It's that good. It's a top film. Absolutely brilliant film, and you feel for these four guys that have gone on this trip. They start hallucinating things. This witch sort of spell that's over the woods and over this hut that they find and stay in all makes them see different things about themselves and all this, and they sort of succumb to these villagers, and they start to sort of like they get captured and get tortured and used as a ritual for the creature in the woods. And when you see the creature, well, one last film to go and another British film, and it has to be about the autumn period. It has to be about our history here in Britain, which is paganism. So it has to be The Wicker Man. I mean, there's no other film that really touches heavily on the autumn as much as The Wicker Man, right? I mean, it's just an incredible film. Really, really cool. Really nice. Really, really nice. And it touches on a small sort of like community that live on this island called Somerville, which is just off the Isle of Scotland. And one of the somebody's reported to the Inland Police a young girl gone missing, but they haven't. That's just been a trap to get this policeman to come over. Anyway, the policeman comes over and investigates, looking for this missing girl, Rowan, and he meets all the villagers, and he meets the sort of like their kind of mayor, who played by Christopher Lee, and they take him on a ride around the whole sort of island on trickery and mockery, and then they use him as a part of their pagan ceremony for the autumn crop and stuff like that. It's such a amazing film, with probably one of the best endings in any horror film. Absolutely amazing film. So there we go. That's the other 5 recommendations I've given you. So Hellfest, Halloween Story, The Ritual, a survival horror, The Righteous, an occult horror, the horror of Dr. Hitchcock, a messed up gothic story, and of course a pagan story of The Wicker Man. So there we go, guys. 10 really good recommendations for you to watch over this autumn period. Something there for everyone, from comedy horror to serious horror. I've tried to leave out my extreme horror, because you know how much I love that, but I've tried to leave that out and go for more that is a bit more orientated for most horror fans to be acceptable with. Enjoy, guys.